Hey there, welcome to Get a Flight. I'm Joshua, and today we're going to be talking about refinishing some lawnmower seats with both flexseal and Plastidip. Let's do some experimenting and see which one works out better. So I've prepared one of these lawnmower seats for a buddy using the spreadable or the dippable Plastidip before, and it held up really well. So I got to thinking, I wonder if I have to do the whole seat, should I use Plastidip again in the aerosol form and spray the whole seat? Or should I use flexseal spray? I didn't know, so I found another mower that had a busted seat. We're gonna do one seat in each and see how they hold up over time. Now before we get into the results of the flexseal versus the Plastidip, if you enjoy these DIY videos, hit that subscribe button. Alright, so we went ahead and coated these chairs. We got one whole can of Plastidip on this one and one whole can of the flexseal on this one. And they both look really nice. We're going to use them for a little bit, get some use on and wear and tear on these, and then see how the different ones hold up. Alright, so I've been using these seats for a little over 8 weeks now, and I want to give you my final thoughts on them. So this seat that we put the flexseal on, it took 3 coats to use up the entire can on this seat. The one that we put the Plastidip on, it took 6 coats. I definitely felt like the flexseal went on thicker. I had a few more runs than I did with the Plastidip, and that's something that you got to pay attention to. It comes out globbier, comes out thicker, whereas the Plastidip is much more of a fine spray. However, the flexseal is twice as expensive. So it really seems like I got half the coverage of the Plastidip as I did with the flexseal. But I think if I had used 2 cans of Plastidip, I would have got about the same overall coverage as the flexseal. Using the spray foam to fill in some of the gaps actually worked pretty darn well. I had some spots where the holes, the bubbles, didn't quite fill in with the foam. But it held up pretty well. Now I will say, with the Craftsman seat, the plastic that was covering the seat originally was to the point where it's starting to snap. It's getting brittle. And I think if you're at that point, what I should have done with this seat is removed all of that old covering, the brittle covering, and then just sprayed on the flexseal, because the flexseal just covered over the brittle parts, and then as soon as I sat on the seat the first time, it snapped. But I think if your seat is to the point where you press on it and it's brittle and it snaps, go ahead and remove all that first before you do any of this stuff. So I think when it gets down to it, what would I do if I were to do it again? I think that if I had pieces coming off, I would try and get the old brittle seat covering off, and I would probably go with flexseal. It will take half as long to apply. You got to be careful because it's not as necessarily removable as Plastidip. Like the Plastidip, you could peel off the excess, the overspray. Flexseal, you can't do that, so you got to make sure that you mask appropriately and you get it only where you want it to go. But it can be done in half the amount of time, because I think in order to get the same amount of coverage, I would have had to use 2 cans of Plastidip. Now I will say, I've used Plastidip in the liquid form on another lawnmower seat, then that did really well. I put it on with a paintbrush for smaller spots, not necessarily covering the whole seat, and I had really good results with the Plastidip in the liquid form. Just in the aerosol spray, it comes out too fine. I think you're better off going with flexseal, in my opinion, but that's also got its limitations as well. Now there are other solutions. You can buy a fabric seat cover that slides over these seats. You could also just buy a brand new seat, something that's not brittle from the UV exposure, and go that route. However, I don't think that that's the way that you want to go if you're watching a DIY video comparing ways to fix the seat yourself. So, let me know down in the comments below what other options you've considered for covering lawnmower seats or tractor seats, and if you've had any experience with them, let me know what's worked well for you. Well, there you go, guys. There's the difference between aerosol flexseal and aerosol Plastidip. If you gained some value from this video, make sure you show some appreciation down below. I'll also include a link to the video that I did repairing another lawnmower seat with the liquid Plastidip. You can check out that in the description box below. Until next time, I'm Joshua. You've been watching Gander Flight. Take care and pay forward.